Okay, good morning, guys. Happy Friday. This is it. Indie Wake Up Call, the best show in town, right here on CFRC 101.9 FM. Nice. Guys, I'm your host, Nick Vassos, and joining me today, I have a very, and let me repeat that, very special guest. All right, coming off of an eventful 2022 that saw the release of their latest single, Roadkill, as well as their debut record, You Have Got to Be Kidding Me. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the show today is Hannah Judge, aka Fanclubwallet. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really excited for today, and I've got a few questions lined up here. So I say we just jump right into it. First and foremost, there may be some listeners at home who perhaps aren't as familiar with you or your music. So why don't we start there? Please, I guess, introduce yourself and I don't know, maybe talk briefly about what people can expect from your music by listening to it for the first time.
So I'm Hannah and I make music as Fan Club Wallet. We make kind of indie rock, indie pop music. Lots of fun guitars and synths. I'm like a big fan of children's keyboards, so it's kind of like cartoony. I feel like the music is a little bit cartoony. I'm also an illustrator, so I feel like if you are gonna listen to it, you might get like kind of an illustrated vibe.
That's kind of an interesting thing. I never knew that, and actually, I do now that I'm thinking about it. I do kind of hear that in the music a little bit. So that's super cool to hear. And actually, that's a good segue into talking about, I guess, your earliest days as a musician, like the inspirations for starting this. Obviously, now you've got quite a large following across many different platforms, but like, how did that success come about? Was it an overnight thing? Was it something that you really had to work a long time for? Like, when did you know you wanted to be a musician, and when did you know you wanted to start making music in that realm?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been kind of making music for a long time, but I was pretty shy about it and I didn't really let anyone hear it. But then I started a band with my friends, Etta and Kat, and it was called Gullet. And we started a little band together and put out some music under that, and that kind of made me gain my own confidence, and I felt confident enough to start making my own solo music, and kind of went from there. And with like the success of the music, honestly, I have no idea what happened. I just was putting out music and it got picked up, I guess, by the algorithm, and and just yeah, it kind of felt like overnight. Suddenly there were a ton of people listening to it, which is super nuts.
Actually, that's a good transition too into just talking about the music and how that all started when releasing, right? Like, I noticed that some of your first songs on Spotify, including your biggest release to date, were in 2020. And as we all know, the pandemic had kind of been in full swing by that point. So, I wanted to ask you about how you managed to be productive during that time and consistently release music. Like, more specifically, how did your artistic output and voice adapt to those unexpected changes in the world? And also, what does it feel like now that you're able to, I guess, perform and collaborate with those songs in a time in which that's now allowed to happen again? Like, what has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, well, when the pandemic hit, I was actually living with my producer and the rest of their band.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great to
Um,
hear.
so they were actually at this like studio, not even a studio, they just were at like a random tiny, tiny, tiny cottage out in the middle of nowhere, and they were working on their EP, and I was like upstairs, um just like with the fan on so they couldn't hear me trying to write
Just
music.
working away. Yeah, exactly.
And then when we came back to Ottawa, I was still staying with my producer, so it kind of worked out to be like in the same place as one of your creative partners. Um, but now that I'm able to actually play with the band, it's just so amazing. Like, I didn't think that I would ever really be playing in front of people, and we've gotten to play in front of some really spectacular crowds this year. And I don't know, I feel like it doesn't even feel real.
Yeah, that's great. And that's really lucky too that you were able to work during that time with other people, right? You hear stories all the time of people doing their kind of at-home concerts or having to work, remotely with people, and especially with music, that's such a collaborative medium, right? So it's hard to be, distant in that way. So it's great to hear that you were able to work around that. That's great. One other question here. This is another big one. Talk to me about like your upcoming shows. I know you've got a show on the 14th right here in Kingston at the Broom Factory, but like what can listeners expect from going to this current tour? And also what does the rest of this tour look like?
Yeah, I'm really excited about these shows. We're finally getting to play a lot of the songs from the album that we haven't previously gotten to play. It kind of feels like we were playing the same like six songs for forever. So I'm super stoked to finally play some new stuff. And we went on a really big tour last summer, and it got me just so much more used to being on stage. So I think that this tour is going to be a lot of fun. And if you're a fan of Garfield, you should definitely come out. You may be shocked by what you see.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Yeah, one more like really big question here. I'm curious to hear about, in general, your songwriting process. Do you ever find yourself drawing inspiration from a lot of other artists? Like where do ideas come from for you when working on a song?
Yeah, I definitely draw a lot of inspiration from other artists. I often find too that it's easy to write lyrics while you're listening to someone else's song. Like I can think of my own lyrics along to someone else's song and then kind
Interesting.
of
Okay.
make like a new song out of that. I know that sounds strange, but generally the songwriting process though is me and I'm just like in my room on my guitar and I'll make a little demo, I'll pop it into my computer and I'll send it to my producer who like lives super duper close to me. So I'll just be like, "Should we work on this?" And they'll always be like, "Yeah, of course." Um and then we get in the room and we kind of finish things up there, make it sound less like it was recorded on like a
Hmm.
can.
A can on a string. Just
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm curious, kind of piggybacking off of that last question, do you have any like favorite releases or albums or singles from last year? Like what were you listening to last year? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I was listening a lot to the band Mama just put out an album and it's got a car on the front. I'm a huge fan of cars, so that's a great one. But it's like kind of like a grungy rock album. And then the 1975 just put out
Of course. Yeah.
their album, which I feel like is kind of a basic answer, but
That's a
it's
great answer though.
honest.
I've played it
It
on the show before. It's a good answer.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean I love really well crafted pop music, and that is absolutely really well crafted pop music. And but honestly, mostly spending a lot of time listening to other Ottawa artists. There have been a lot of really amazing local releases this year, and I've found those to be really, really inspiring.
I want to go back to briefly. This is a throwaway thing. You said you were interested in like cars, right? And it got me thinking about your biggest single to date, "Car Crash in G Major." Now that song, that I mean, congrats! It just hit 10 million streams on Spotify, which is incredible.
Thank
Talk
you.
to me about that. Like, how does that feel having a song with 10 million streams? Also, like was this the song that you were expecting to have that kind of traction, or like, I don't know, what did that feel like for you?
When I put that song out, I didn't really think anything was gonna happen. I thought, maybe some people would listen to it, but I didn't think that 10 million people would listen to it. Um, and that was like one of the first songs ever written for Fanclubwallet. So it feels really crazy that it's getting like I don't know. It's insane that so many people are listening to it, and I'm glad that a lot of people are able to resonate with it, even if it maybe like doesn't resonate for me as much anymore. Um,
Right. Yeah, I guess it was all the way back in 2020, so I guess a lot has changed since
yeah,
then.
it was probably written in like 2019
Right.
even.
Mhm.
Like, But yeah, I'm really, really grateful that so many people are enjoying it.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And once again, congrats on that. That's a huge milestone. Yeah, like listen, I think we're making pretty good time here. I think a fun way to maybe wrap things up would be to answer a few rapid fire questions that I've got. I only have three, nothing crazy. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Awesome. Number one, all right. I'm just curious. This is more for me than anything. Do you have a favorite song in your discography? Right. Like you said, Car Crash in G major over the last few years, that the meaning for that might have changed or, has lost a bit of meaning, or I don't know. Like what is your favorite song in your discography right now?
My favorite song in the discography is actually not a song by me, but it is a cover. And it is our cover of This Must Be the Place by the
Okay.
Talking
Yeah.
Heads.
And that was your first release, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's my
Yeah. Okay.
favorite favorite song, and I love it.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's fair. Also, second question here. Dream collaborator, fitting that you just said it's a cover. Like, is there anybody in the world right now, any artist, any band that you would love to work with on a song?
I would love to work with Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse or Jenny Lewis from Rilo Kiley.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's great too. And finally, I think the last question on everybody's minds. I know you just put out a single in October, but can we maybe expect any new music in the near future? Is that a possibility?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm hoping for some new music in the next couple months.
Incredible. You heard it here first, folks, directly from the source. Hannah, before we wrap up, is there any sort of final things you'd like to say? Maybe, you want to plug your social medias, anything like that. Now is the last time to do it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can follow me at Fanclubwallet everywhere for more music, more cartoons, just more silly fun. And thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to being in Kingston.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on the show. Guys, that has been Fanclubwallet and me, Nick Vassos, right here for an exclusive interview on Indie Wake Up Call. You can see Hannah live at the Broom Factory on the 14th right here in Kingston. Hannah, once again, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you the